Okay, so when we're looking at quadratics and we have x minus h within the brackets, we know that when we had y equals x squared plus k, that k value moved us up and down. It was outside of the brackets. When we're inside the brackets, we're actually now going to be moving left to right. So our h value is a horizontal shift. So we've got a horizontal shift. Now, just like with the k value, when h, wow, that's a bad h. When h is greater than 0, that means we have a negative in the brackets. Because if you look at the equation has a negative itself. If h was less than 0, then we'd have a double negative, and that would make a positive in the brackets. So a negative in the bracket, it's going to move, so this moves to the right h units. Okay, or positively h units. If h is less than 0, that means we're going to get a double negative, so a positive in the brackets. We're going to do the opposite. So moves left or negative h units. Okay, let's just look at that for a second. So I'm going to just add this in here. We're going to, if we had a typical quadratic, so y equals x squared. Let's pretend that gets right down to 0, 0. Okay, so y equals x squared. I know at the vertex here, I'm not going to move the graph up and down. I only want to move it left and right, that y is equal to 0. So at the vertex of this graph, we're at 0, 0. Now, if I want to shift the graph to the right, so if I want to get the graph over here, I want to get it to 3. To get to 0, right now I would be doing, if I went to 3 and y equals x squared, so we'll write it over here. We've got x, and we've got 3. So if we had y equals x squared, and I did 3 squared, that would be 9. That would mean I'm way up here, I'm at 9. Okay, we don't want that. We want to be on the axis. We want to shift the graph to the right 3 units. Well, if I did y equals x plus 3 squared, that would give me 3 plus 3, which is 6. And if I squared that, I would get 36. That doesn't work. That's not what we want. So when we're actually graphing this, we want to do y equals x minus 3, because now 3 minus 3 is 0, and 0 squared is 0. So that would move us. This graph here is y equals x minus 3 squared, where if I plug in 3, I've moved right to the 3, I'm going to be at y equals 0, which is what I wanted. If I wanted to move the graph left, let's say if we're going left to 4. Okay, so if this was at 4. Again, if I put 4 into y equals x squared, that's going to get me up to 16. So I know I need to move the graph, because otherwise I'd be way up. If I put y equals, so we'd have to write a new chart here. So forgive me, I'm just going to erase this and move down, make a second chart. So if we had y equals x squared, and then if we did y equals x minus 4, because you're going to the minus, so a lot of people think that I should put minus 4, or x plus 4. If I put in 4, we'd get 16 here. That would be negative 4, excuse me. And if I did negative 4 again, we're going to get negative 4 minus 4 is negative 8. So this would be y equals 64. We don't want that. We want 0. So it has to be the opposite. So the equation for this would be y equals x plus 4 squared. So when we're inside the brackets, we're always doing the opposite of what it says. If it says -4, we're moving plus. If it says +4, we're moving minus. So if I was graphing these, it says, for each of the following, state the vertex and then graph it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually graph it first. But if I think about, maybe we'll state the vertex. If we have a positive in the bracket, we know that we're moving, or sorry, negative, we know we're moving to the positive. So I've moved 1 to the right. And I know that this hasn't moved up or down at all. So my vertex is just going to be 1, 0. And then I'm going to graph it. 1, 0, over 1, up 1, over 1, up 3, and then go to the other side. Over 1, up 1, over 1, up 3, and I'm going to just connect the dots and put arrows. All right, let's look at this next one. We've got +7. Well, that means I've moved to the -7. So my vertex is going to be -7 and 0. I've moved over here. I go over 1, up 1, over 1, up 3, over 1, up 1, over 1, up 3, and connect the dots. Okay, I haven't done anything up and down, or I haven't changed my step pattern at all. Okay, it's going to look the same each time. If we did this one, we have a -5. That means I move +5. Okay, we're always doing the opposite of what's in the brackets. So we're going to go over here, over 1, up 1, over 1, up 3, over 1, up 1, over 1, up 3, connect the dots, put arrows at the end. Now this last one, sorry, I'm going to just change colors. This last one, we have actually moved left and right, and we've moved up and down. So my vertex here, we've got -2, so +2, so we're going to go to the negative, and we're going to go down 4, because we've got that down 4 at the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over 2, I'm going to go down 4, and I'm going to start my graph right there. I'm going to have my vertex, my starting point, and then I'm just going to graph using my step pattern. Over 1, up 1, over 1, up 3, over 1, up 1, over 1, up 3, connect the dots, and put my arrows at the end. All right, let's look at the next question. So it says graph the following using Desmos and determine the X and Y intercepts. So if we were to do that, we would have a very similar thing to what we just had. So what we're going to do is we'll do this in class, and I want you to understand that I can show you my vertex here. We've moved this down 4. We haven't moved left or right. So my vertex here is going to be 0 and -4. Okay, the same thing for here. We would have my vertex is going to be 0 and -11. Okay, and then we're going to have to try to find out what our X and Y intercepts are. We can do it algebraically, but there's a little hiccup that you might run into. So I want you to use the graph, and then I want you to find your X and Y intercepts. Okay, we're going to also look at these ones. These ones we've now moved left and right and up and down for the second one. So for this one, our vertex, we've got -3, so that means we've moved +3. We haven't moved up or down. This one, we've got -5, so that's going to be a +5 and +4. Okay, when we're doing these graphs, when we're looking at these in general, we know that outside of the brackets is always going to be vertical, and it's always kind of what I like to say is regular. If it says +4, I move it up 4. Inside the brackets is horizontal, and it's opposite. If it says -3, that means I go +3. If it said +5, that means I go -5. Outside is vertical and regular, inside is horizontal and opposite.